Hey, you're listening to the Coffee O'Clock podcast, the show that brings you joy and inspiration, with special guests from all around the world who have an amazing story and expertise to evolve your personal and professional life. I am your host, Burcu Onaranel, the founder of Joy Marketing and Coaching. Make sure you grab your coffee and get ready to explore new ideas. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Another great episode on the Coffee O'Clock podcast. Today, I have Emma Toops, co-owner of Toops Consulting and author of Wait, What? I am excited to chat with her about what she does, the transition puzzle paradigm, and so many different things that she's doing with her husband. I'm going to have her join us with the cheers. Welcome, Emma. Cheers. I know you have the water.
No, it doesn't come through very well. There it is.
Yeah. How are you? Welcome.
I'm good.
Great. How are you doing today and who you are? I introduced you just a little bit, but I want to, and my audience want to hear more about you.
Sure. My name is Emma Toops. I have this knowledge business with my husband, David. And what we do is we're freelance educators. We're teachers. And so we help students and adults who are in academic or career transitions. And it's really just focused on the process of change, because that's what we're doing in life. You know, we're always encountering new and different things, and sometimes we get hung up in the process. And the transition puzzle paradigm is something that I realized that I do in the way that I think. And part of the reason why I do it so well is just because I have a lot of experience with things that have changed in my life, in my career, just going through life with David and our relationship. I used to be in the military. And so in the military, you're getting assignments very regularly. And so that whole transition thing, we're living it because of the life, but everybody goes through change always. And hopefully they're managing it well. Others don't do it as well as some. And so that's what we're all about. We're supporting people in their successes, or hopefully getting them to their successes in life, school, career, and business.
Very interesting. And I have a huge respect to you who was in the military as a woman, because it's not common, especially in my country, in my origin, Turkey. So it's not common to see women in the military. So it's amazing to see and interview someone who was in. And of course, I'm sure so many challenges you face, not only as a human, but also as a woman. And I want to ask you, how did you and your husband got this idea to build a business together?
It actually was because of a transition challenge. In our military in the US, there's always a requirement that you continue to grow. It's a learning environment, and so we're always getting opportunities to improve our skills and abilities. We're always training if we're not on an actual mission, and then we also get equipped with mentorship and schooling, so that we're always ready to step up to a challenge, or if someone on the team, falls out because of an emergency or some type of something, we're always able to continue with the mission. We can't just stop. Something can't just send us sideways in the plan, and we can't keep going. And so that's part of the way I think. It's like, you got to keep going, even if the plan starts going haywire. But when I was towards the end of my career, I was looking to get promoted to lieutenant colonel, which on the officer scale, there's a scale of 1 to 10. I was at 4. And then I was looking to get promoted to lieutenant colonel, which is an 05 on the scale. And getting to 05 takes about 16 years, right? If you're
Wow.
progressing normally. The
Mhm.
last 4 uh, levels of the officer scale are generals, and most people don't even get to become a general. So I was doing really well in my career, and I was expecting to get promoted to lieutenant colonel. But our government decided to downsize our military at this period of time where I was expecting to get promoted. And unbeknownst to me, the system changed, the promotion system changed, and I didn't get selected for promotion. And so that affected my future plans for, what I was going to do with my career. So long story short, my career ended sooner than I thought it was going to. And David and I, we thought we had 2.5 more years before I retired. My intention was to start planning for my retirement as I was in my last assignment. And well, that never happened. So something about going into entrepreneurship, and when I, was kind of assessing my situation and just kind of in a panic about, oh my gosh, I don't have a plan. I don't have time to execute the plan because it's sooner than I expected. Um, I went into entrepreneurship because it seems really ironic, but I felt like it was the path where I had the most control.
Mhm.
Going into any opportunity, you have to know people, right? You have to kind of understand what's expected and the language and the culture, and you need to kind of know people. And I'd been in the military and I didn't know people to go into corporate America. I was like, well, I don't even know what that environment looks like. I thought I was going to go work maybe for another government agency, because
Mhm.
the Department of Defense is just one of very many government agencies. But one of the things that I did not expect, was a month after I left Europe, because my last assignment was in Europe. A month after
Oh,
I
okay.
left Europe to come back to the United States, our government actually shut down. We called it sequestration, and basically there were people who were government workers who were told to not come to work. It had to do with money, and there was a lot of things that were really uncertain with our government at that time. And so when between getting downsized in the military and then sequestration happening a month after I get back from Europe, I have 90 days left on active duty. Sequestration happens. I was like, oh well, shoot, my plan for maybe working for the government is like, okay, that doesn't seem like a good idea either. So what do you do
Mhm.
if going into corporate America or working for the government are kind of not good options? It's like, well, then I guess I'm gonna have to work for myself with a business model that is already proven. So I went into entrepreneurship initially, as a 1099 contractor in the United States. That's representing a big brand, in a certain industry, but you are building your own business. It's like usually an agency. So I went into insurance. And it was, while I was building my insurance agency representing a big insurance brand, as a contractor, I realized that change what I'd done, what I'd gone through to kind of get on to the next thing in my life, in my career, that there's always a knowledge gap, right? There's always a knowledge gap when you meet people, when you go into something new and different, and you have to figure out what's in the gap to support what it is that you're doing so that you continue to take those next steps. And I was networking a lot and building my business, and I realized this gap existed perpetually. between people who had served in the military and people who had not served in the military. Because I was constantly having to explain things about where am I coming from, having been in the military, to everyone that I would meet. I'm learning a little bit about what their work is and kind of seeing how we might support each other. Or if, our services or product can be something of value to them. And I realized over time, I was not having the knowledge gap challenge that some people might have because I was bridging it. And bridging a gap of knowledge is education. You got to become informed. You have to become self-aware. And so that was how I started the knowledge business with my husband. Is I there was some frustrations on his part as far as being a military spouse. His resume had gaps of employment that weren't inherently obvious for him being a military spouse. And that's pretty unconventional. Most military spouses are women. And so that wasn't something that people would assume, or even after they were told, they still didn't understand it. But David and I both, through our transition in my first year after I retired, realized, gosh, we're encountering these knowledge gaps all the time. And so we were able to kind of approach the opportunity. So it's education. We can help people better understand when there's a knowledge gap, because one, we both have been really successful when we've been students, right? When we were students, we were always really good in school, and enough to where sometimes we would help our friends learn whatever it was that they were struggling with. So we've been, informal tutors to our own friends when we were students ourselves. And we have an ability to explain things simply to people where it makes sense to us and it doesn't to them. And so we decided, well, we can be consultants for the expertise that we have technically, and then we can just help people with the challenges of academics or career, if that's what it is that they are struggling with. And if it's not us that can help them with that knowledge gap, then we'll just refer them to somebody, right? We'll refer them to who they need. And that's how it came to be, was just us going through it ourselves, and realizing where we were supporting our own knowledge gaps.
What a story, Emma. I couldn't interrupt you, or I couldn't say anything because it was so nicely storytelling that I was just watching you, listening to you, and I'm sure our audience enjoy the same. I enjoyed, even though it was full of challenges and hard times, but the way you explain things truly tells me you're a teacher and consultant, because it's
Thank
easy to
you.
listen to, it's easy to follow. When was that challenge, when you learned that your duties are gonna go, like you will be unemployed and you can't get a job when you return to the US? When was it? What year?
I was deployed in Afghanistan in 2012 when I learned I was non-selected for lieutenant colonel. And this was the first time that I even understood that the government was downsizing our military. And in our system, you get a couple tries as far as getting selected. And so that was what we refer to as my first look for lieutenant colonel. And so I was deployed in my first look. And so there wasn't a lot that I really could do because I was deployed. But I talked to some senior leaders who were in my unit about what the heck happened. It was a complete surprise, right? So I talked to some senior leaders. There was a 2-star general who was in my chain of command, who was part of my rating chain. He explained to me, well, the system has changed. Promotions are not like what they used to be. And what he told me encouraged me that I would get selected the next time. He's like, there must be a mistake, because you should have gotten
Mhm.
selected, da da da. And so I went through the rest of the deployment just trying to just focus on the mission that I'm there for. And it's like, well, I'll get selected next time was my thinking, because there was a mistake. And I thought there might be a report in my file or something that was mislooked, whatever. And I
Mhm.
did what I could as far as the process while I was deployed. When I got back from deployment, my home station unit was in Germany. Um, and so I get back to Germany, and the board process had already happened for me to get selected a second time, if or get picked up this second look. But I found out I wasn't selected this second time. And this was in 2013. So in 2013, I found out officially in June that my career is ending. I had gotten a phone call from my immediate supervisor to let me know the list is coming out tomorrow. You're not on it. That was heartbreaking. I kind of had a suspicion that that was what the call was about, because that they do that. So that you're not surprised when and if your friends or other people see the list before you. Yeah. Anyway, that was in June of 2013, and I had less than 6 months before my career was done. I got a letter from the government. I refer to it as my GI Jane letter. So I kind of call it that because you sometimes refer to a breakup letter as a Dear John letter. And
Mhm.
so the Dear John letter is, I love you, but I'm breaking up with you. So this
Yeah.
letter that I got from the government was, from Department of Defense. That's kind of what I felt like. It's like, we love you, but we're breaking up with you. And
Mm.
that letter gave me several options for how I could get out and end my career. There's a couple, choices, a decision that I needed to make. And it gave me the end date of my time left on active duty. So that I got this letter in July. It was the end of June, early July is when I got the letter, but I was informed about not being selected for the second time in mid-June. The end of my career, as far as the date on that letter, was November 30th of that year. So
Wow.
less than 6 months, I was going to be done with my career. There was a couple options that didn't apply to me in the options available. One of them was because I hadn't been a enlisted service person previously. So there was an option there for if you have prior service as an enlisted uh, troop, then this was an option that didn't apply to me. There was one that I just thought was a little ridiculous, but it was kind of what I refer to as the bye-bye, see ya, and just kind of throw it all away as far as I'm done, go away. Right. And it's like, no, I've invested too much of my life to my career to just say bye-bye. So that one didn't apply to me. And it was just a straight out resign. And then the last two were the ones that I considered. One of them had to do with going into the reserve component, and continuing my career in the reserves. And it actually is a different career track as far as my commission by going into the reserve. So that was something I was like, well, okay, maybe. And then the other one, which was the one I chose, was to just retire early. In the system, the way that it had changed, they actually implemented a temporary early retirement authority. It's an acronym that we refer to as TERA, TERA. But normally you can't request retirement unless you've served 20 years or more. Well, because the government was downsizing the military, they implemented TERA. And if you met certain criteria and conditions, then you could request retirement early short of 20 years. I met the eligibility criteria and all the requirements for Terra, so that's what I did. And I retired early as a
Right.
major.
Wow, Emma, it's a lot of a person to experience and deal with. And the way you explain it, maybe it's like over um 10 years ago. That's why you're over
Mhm.
everything and you're smiling. But I know deep dive, you felt hurt a lot and it was not
Yeah.
easy for you. So I want to
Yeah.
ask you, and I want your teacher hat and consultant hat to come and give our audience some tips to follow when we face these kind of hardships in our life. What can we do? And what did you do to overcome? What would you say?
Yeah, that actually is a great segue for me to talk about the transition puzzle paradigm because I realized it a couple years later. So you're right. It was emotionally traumatic. The whole thing with the disruption to my expectations for how my career was going to end, what I was going to do next in my career, all of that. But once I got on the other side of it, it took a couple of years, right, for me to get to the other side of all that and felt like I was stable again. I felt like I was really contributing at a high level in the work that I was doing. I wasn't just trying to figure it out still. I think everybody's always figuring things out. But the transition puzzle paradigm is this framework that helps someone to be a better planner if they're not already a planner. Um, but there's three components to it, and it's an analogy to a jigsaw puzzle. So the
Mhm.
first big component of the transition puzzle paradigm, it's a way of thinking, right, is you have to have a picture, right? If you've ever done a jigsaw puzzle without a picture, it is very, very challenging, and most people don't even want to do it, right? So there's a picture. The second big component of the paradigm is you need to have a frame, right? When you do a jigsaw puzzle, you don't start in the middle. You usually start with the edges because, well, you have the picture. This is going to be a rectangle most of the time. And so you go with what you know and what do you have. When you
Mhm.
start, it's just a big chaotic mess of 1,000 pieces, let's say, and it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like the picture. So what do you start with? You start with what you know. You start with the edges because the straight lines, right? So you got to frame it. But this frame in my paradigm, I refer to it as the awareness frame. So there is an awareness half that is yourself. You need to be self-aware. But then there's also this awareness half that is the environment that you're showing up in. You need to be aware of the space you're in, right? And then the third big component of the paradigm is what I refer to as the chaotic middle. The chaotic middle has four quadrants. Two of the quadrants are in the self-awareness half, and those are personal identity and purpose. You need to have self-awareness of who you are and what are you about. And then the space awareness half, the two quadrants there, is you need to understand the rules and culture, and you also need to understand routines and expectations. So altogether, when you are in transition, you're going to encounter people, you're going to encounter data, you're going to encounter whatever you research as far as what it is that you're trying to learn about as far as an opportunity or an industry. And you're going to need to manage the chaos of the middle. And so
Mhm.
the more well-defined and clear you are for your awareness frame, and you have a picture, which is your objective, whatever that objective is, the easier you're able to assess relevance to the pieces you encounter while you are in transition. You're trying to solve this transition puzzle, but people are getting hung up in the process for one reason or another. And the paradigm helps you to keep picking up new pieces and managing the chaos. So I realized I think this way a couple of years after I got out of the military. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article in 2015 that describes the puzzle. I didn't call it the transition puzzle paradigm then, but this
Uh-huh.
idea of the frame and having a picture and the chaos and all of that, the analogy to a jigsaw puzzle, I actually kind of landed on that, on 2015, and that's how I explain my work. That's kind of how I always refer to people as far as where are you getting hung up in the process? Because it could be you're getting in your own way because you aren't being decisive in understanding what you want. Your picture is vague or unclear. You don't even know what it is. Or maybe it has to do with your self-awareness. You are confused as far as what you have to offer. You don't know what your purpose is. You haven't decided what it is because you want to do something different from what you've always done. This is something that with military is really challenging. So the military transition, you know where you fit in the team. You are encouraged and empowered and equipped to perform at a high level, and you're expected to, right? But when you leave the military, sometimes that purpose is no longer well defined for you. You got to decide for yourself what it is. And some people just aren't confident in themselves anymore. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. And I hope we can find that article. So I want to put that under the episode too for our
Oh, sure, I
audience
can
to,
send you the link.
yeah, that would be nice for us to read. Emma, it's amazing to chat with you. Like I can literally call you as my teacher and ask your advice. That's how I feel. I feel the trust, the safety that your energy is sending to me. I don't know, it's your vibe. That's what you have in your aura, and what you have been through, I think, just made you who you are today, and you're helping people in their life. Transition is not easy, and especially what
Right.
you described with the military in other areas. So it's not easy. So definitely you and your husband is a huge help for people, and people need to know there is this help out there because most people don't know. And that's why I hope that this episode and other areas that you're going to speak will reach out to the right people. I always ask my guests to leave my audience with the last sentence. What would be your sentence, Emma?
Okay. My sentence would actually be an idea. It's that success is a journey, and that journey you shouldn't do by yourself, right? And so you can be the navigator of that journey. You've got a map, you hope, and there are certain destinations on it that you want to hit, but you don't necessarily know everything that you need for that success journey. And so the paradigm is kind of a way for you to be able to execute to that idea. Success is a journey, but you got to take ownership of what it is, for yourself. And the last phrase I would say is control what you can control, which is you, and
Mhm.
influence that which you cannot, which is the environment.
Wow, thank you. Such a powerful way to end this episode. And last but not least, how people can reach out to you, Emma, if they want to work with Toops Consulting.
You can send me an email at emma@toopsconsulting.com. I have a website, toopsconsulting.com. And then I actually have some new stuff that I'm getting into with some nonprofit work,
Okay.
fit for service. So connect with me on LinkedIn, because as I'm developing the program and helping start up this nonprofit is called Fit for Service.
Mhm.
A lot of what it is that I do with the transition puzzle paradigm and becoming confident and self-aware in the those concepts are going to be part of the program that we're going to be doing. And the program, we're expecting to launch our first cohorts this summer, and we're
Nice.
focused on
Very
youth,
nice.
so young folks.
That is amazing. And I just wanted to check if we have connected already or not. And yes, we are connected on LinkedIn. So please, people, connect with Emma on LinkedIn and follow her website and what she's going to do with amazing backgrounds that she has. And students are very lucky, and people are very lucky who are in transition, who need your help. Thank you, Emma, for being here. It was
Thank
pleasure to
you. It's been a pleasure. It's always great to meet people, and thank you so much for having me.
have a great day, and thank you everyone who tuned it. Enjoy, and please share this episode with the people, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and now you can apply it to your life. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the Coffee O'Clock podcast on Apple and leave us a review. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you feel like someone needs to listen to this episode, share it on your social media or text the link to that person to make an impact in their life. Be sure to tune in every Monday for new episodes. You can also watch the episodes and find more inspiration on my Instagram, which is at JOYYBURCU. Until next time, make sure to spend some time with you and stay with joy.